Hey everybody, welcome back to Mike's Wooden Things and Stuff. Today we are going to make a couple of French style, what are these called? Rolling pins. French style rolling pins today. I made a batch of these back at the beginning of the summer for a market that I had, or in the middle of summer, for a market I had, and they went over really well. And a friend of mine wanted me to make her a couple to give out as Christmas gifts. So we're going to make those today. And maybe a couple more, because they're kind of, if you're going to be doing these, you should probably do them in batches of 3, 4, 5, just if you're going to start ripping wood down and gluing it together and making rolling pins, you might as well make a few. So that's the plan for today: cherry and maple French style rolling pins. Let's get milling down some cherry and some maple and gluing it up into blanks. Come on. Thanks for coming. So, as always, we start by marking out our rough stock. I got a 4-foot long piece of 8-quarter cherry and a maple short out of the shorts rack that it looked like I could get some pieces out of. So that's what I went with, and we're going to cut these down into 2-foot lengths of cherry and a bit more than that of maple, but it didn't really matter because it was the cheap stuff. So then we can fire it all through the jointer and the planer and get everything all flat and square and milled and nice so that we can rip it into strips and glue it back together. And yeah, if you don't know how the milling process works, I will eventually do a video on my milling process, but there's lots of them out there by other people. So then I set the fence to the width of the cherry, which at this point is probably about 1.75 inches, maybe a little more than that, and rip down the maple into strips that height, which you'll get in a second here. Reset the fence to the width of the maple to rip the cherry into that width, so that I can get the outside pieces of the rolling pins, and then I can take a piece of maple and rip down the inside strips that are going to become the stripes. And I did the same thing with a piece of cherry for the maple-based rolling pin. And then we can get gluing it all together. And the easiest way to do this is essentially to make a giant cutting board in your clamps without gluing. Careful now. Without this, you have to do this without gluing the individual rolling pins together. So keep these things in your head in threes, because you don't want to accidentally glue 2 of them together, because that would suck. That's all I can really say about how that would go. And then, yeah, like I said, you got a giant sort of cutting board looking thing, but every third one isn't glued together. And we take them out of clamps when it's just about set up and get rid of some of the excess glue. You don't really need to in this particular application, because you're not going through your milling machines again. Well, I wasn't. But normally you would want to keep from chipping your blades and stuff later, but it's not that big a deal. We can cut them all to length now and get the ends marked, find the center by going corner to corner, and then putting a little dick in there with the awl so that the live centers are going to grab on it later when it gets up on the lathe. And then instead of just firing it up on the lathe like this, I decided to rip the corners off of them. So I set my blade at 45 and got rid of some excess material just to give me a little rounder before I start on the lathe, because why not? I mean, that stuff's all going to be waste anyway, so might as well take it off the easy way. And then we can get spinning it up, put it all over here, and with the way that I do it, because I'm still just learning my turning. But the way I was doing it, I've only got a 6-inch tool rest, so I started in the middle and got it round, and then I moved to the outside sections and tried to get those also round and evenly blended with the middle one. It's not that important at this point, because I'll show you a little trick that I figured out later on to get everything nice and evenly blended together. But right now we're just getting everything round. I made 5 rolling pins, and at this point I'm literally just getting all 5 of them round, because that's just, when you're doing batch work like this, do all of one stage, etc., 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 and then you move on to the next stage. Hey, sorry to interrupt your show. It seems like riveting stuff that you were probably really enjoying. But I did want to take a moment to thank this week's sponsor of the episode, which is you. Because by watching this show, by clicking the buttons down below, the likes and the subscribes and leaving comments and stuff, you tell the algorithm, the all-knowing intelligence that is YouTube, that these videos are worth putting in front of other eyeballs. And every time it gets in front of an eyeball, I get an extra 0.4 cents. So I very much appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch these. Remember, I also have an Etsy store and a Patreon page that you can go check out and see ways that you can support me more directly. I'll leave those down in the description of the thing. All right, back to the show. Sorry about that. And so, we're continuing on with getting everything round. Like I said, just get it round, take it off, go grab another one, get that one round, take it off, go get another one. So that eventually you've got tubes instead of octagons. And, you know, this takes a little while. You gotta work through it, but you get there eventually, slow and steady. I had 5 of them to do, so I did all 5 of them. Make them round. And then here's my little trick that I don't remember if I saw this somewhere or if I just came up with it, but I probably didn't come up with it. I probably saw it somewhere. Grab a scrap offcut. I think this one's about a foot long, maybe 14 inches long. No, it was 11 inches long because I used a full length of a sheet of sandpaper. And I just cut a strip of sandpaper and glued it to this scrap. And then you've got a 12-inch sanding block, essentially, that you can go over the whole thing with. And you're making at least an 11-inch section flat all at once before you can move over to the random orbit sander. And at this point, I've got 5 tubes that are all sanded up to, I want to say about 150 grit before I started with the taper on the ends. And the way I did this is I put a piece of tape on a ruler set to about 4.5 inches so that they're all the same. And then I just worked the taper down nice and slow. I didn't have a dimension that I wanted to get to, because when I was looking up the dimensions on these things, the reason that I thought it was cool is that there are no standardized dimensions for these things. They're anywhere from 20 to 25 inches long, going anywhere from 2 inches in the middle, tapering out to 1 inch, down to like 1.5 inches, tapering down to 1/2 inch. So there's no standardized French rolling pin dimensions. So you just make them look how you want them to look and get them to the width. And oh, this is where don't put your sander down without a sanding pad on it, without a grit of sandpaper on it in sawdust. It's bad. Don't do that. Anyway, talking about dimensions. There are no specifics, so just taper out the ends to something that looks nice. I didn't even measure on each individual pin. I just did them by eye, and they work. So, yeah. And then this is the best part of every project. Smudging the first coat of finish on here. I'm using the Howard's Feed and Wax. Those of you who have been watching for a while will know that this is my favorite finish, especially for foodstuffs type goods, I guess you'd call them. Things that are going to be having food contact. Nice food safe finish, oil and wax blend. And then you can just get it spinning up so that it causes some friction and drives that stuff in nice and deep. And we're getting close to done here. We're getting close to done. We can take them off, and then we're through that phase of all of them. We can throw them back on one at a time, take a parting tool, and just get down to where the end of the live centers are going to leave a little divot. So we cut those off down to, I went down to like maybe 1/4 inch. I grab a Japanese pull saw and just cut off that little nubbin. And then I can take them over to the random what is that called? That thing that I'm using right there. Random oscillating spindle belt sander thing. And I can do the end, and then I just give it a little bit of a chamfer while I'm over there. And then I can finish pillowing the ends with the random orbit sander afterwards and go all the way up to, I went up to 340 on all of these things, on all of the surfaces. Because you want to be nice and slick and smooth, because you're interacting pretty intimately with these things while you're making food, and then we can spooge some finish into the ends, and we are done. We got ourselves some rolling pins. Yeah. There we go. We got a 5-pack of brand new French style rolling pins, cherry with maple stripe, maple with a cherry stripe, and these two are already spoken for. That's why I was making them. It was a commission piece. But while you're making two, might as well make it as many as wood you have, because why leave a bunch of scrap laying around? So there's 3 more there that I can sell either on my Etsy store, which I will leave a link for below, or down at the local art gallery that I sell stuff at, or whatever. You know, maybe one of them is a Christmas present for my mom. I don't know. But I got 5 of them when I only needed 2. It took me, what, 3 hours altogether, other than waiting for glue to dry, to do the 5 of them. It's a pretty good project. If you got a lathe that can hold 24-ish inches, make some up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. Bye for now. All right.